Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of SQUPCAST. I'm Richard Benwell, and I'm your host for today's episode. In just a moment, I'll introduce our guest speaker, but as always, a reminder that we record this with a live audience. So if you are joining us today, please do contribute on the chat. It'd be great to hear you say hi, and please do ask questions along the way. We're going to have some really interesting stuff, I think, to talk about this episode. So please do contribute on the Q&A, and hopefully, if we have time at the end, we'll pick those up with our guest. So let's get started. Let me introduce Andre Ganima from Evidi. They're an IT consultancy and managed service provider based in Norway. Andre is joining us today to talk us through how they're using SquaredUp to deliver some real-time visibility to their customers. Welcome to SQUPCAST, Andre.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, cool.
Glad to be here.
Great to have you here. We've spoken before, and you've talked us through some things before, so we thought it'd be great to have you join us live on SQUPCAST and share this with a broader audience. So it's really cool what you're doing. I guess a good place to start would be just to tell us a little bit more about who Evidi are and what your role is there.
Yeah, your explanation was very good, but we are, to say it again, we're a Nordic-based IT company. We focus on two things primarily, which is consulting and, of course, products. Also worth mentioning, we are Microsoft experts, if that's allowed to say.
Yep.
We focus on the entire Microsoft stack, so all from Azure, Fabric, Power Platform, Business Central, and probably a lot more. But I don't remember everything on top of my head. But yeah, that's what Evidi does, very shortly. And I'm working as a consultant there, a .NET developer.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm responsible for a service which we offer, which is called the Managed Cloud Cost and Optimization.
Okay, very nice. And I think you said before to me that it was part of a group or a team or a project called Operate and Evolve. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds quite cool. Operate and evolve. So it's not just doing the day-to-day operations, but improve. What is that? Is that a project or a team?
Yeah, you can say team, department, both are correct. We basically have we stand for support, and we also offer these managed services, which I'm going to talk about a bit, but that's the primary focus of our department. Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. So we've got a dashboard up in the corner there. So we're going to get to that in a second, and you're going to talk us through 4 dashboards that you have that I guess are part of those individual services you offer your customers. But just sort of to rewind and sort of start at the beginning, you picked up, I think, SquaredUp, what was it, is it 6 months ago now? So maybe a little longer, maybe as much as a year. What was the initiative that you sort of went out looking for a product like SquaredUp? What were you trying to achieve?
So we started these managed services, and we needed to choose a monitoring platform, and we tried a bit of different things. For example, the Azure dashboards, which they work, mm-hmm. but we were very quickly seeing that they didn't match our needs in terms of maybe scalability. The single pane of glass methodology we're looking for.
Yeah.
So that kind of set us on a journey to look for something else which fit our needs more.
Yeah, you often find that with not just the Azure console, but sort of many tools where they have some built-in visualization capability, maybe something called dashboards. There's some flexibility, but typically not quite enough to act as an independent dashboard that you then need to share out. So I guess that's where you end up with something like SquaredUp. I think you considered a number of other tools. Do you want to just sort of talk us through what you did look at? Because you mentioned a monitoring tool there, but you sort of ended up with dashboards and monitoring. It's a fine line, but I think you probably sort of realized that maybe you had the data already. You just needed to present it. But what other tools did you look at?
No, we looked at quite a bit. I think it was 6, but the primary one we were looking at it's probably no secrets to others. Grafana is a really popular tool, and a couple of the others we were looking at, Datadog, Dynatrace. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are good, but we ended up with SquaredUp. And we haven't looked back since. A very, very good choice, and we're super happy about it. It's covering all of our needs, and the continuous improvements are
Great.
It's wonderful. So
well, we'll get into the dashboards in a second. But so what was it? How did you end up with SquaredUp? Especially sort of you mentioned Dynatrace and Datadogs. They're sort of full stack sort of monolithic monitoring tools. They do everything, right? Sort of all baked in. Grafana is a little different. The dashboarding tool is just the dashboard, and then Grafana have those other sort of data collection and storage elements as well. But you ended up with SquaredUp. What was the sort of main criteria there?
Yeah, so I won't show the document I created, but basically it was a CSV document which compared probably around 20-25 parameters between the different tools. And for example, scalability, ease of use, all of the features we were looking for within our needs. And what we ended up with was SquaredUp kind of had everything, and we really liked the fact that someone from Evidi, probably the department actually, has already used SquaredUp, so they said lots of great things about you as well. That on top of everything else, you guys totally fit everything we needed. That was basically the factor we needed to go for you guys. So
okay, cool.
That was the story.
Yeah, great. All right, well, let's dive in and take a look. So I'll full screen your dashboard here so the audience can get to see it. You have, I think, 4 different dashboards you wanted to show us. There's 4 different services. Let me just intro each one. So cloud business monitoring, cloud governance, cost advisory, and carbon footprint. That's probably going to be the twist at the end, the interesting one. So 4 different services. These are effectively services you run for your customers, and then you provide them with a dashboard for each service, so they get that sort of visibility. It's probably worth saying you're going to show us the sort of shareable dashboards, so sort of the experience that the customer gets. We're not going to dig around too much internally within your environment, just so we don't leak out sort of data sources and customer names and so on. So we're just going to take a look at these shared versions of the dashboards. I guess it's worth asking. You mentioned you focus on the Microsoft ecosystem. Obviously Azure primarily. And we'll see, I think, a lot of Azure data. What are the data sources that you're connecting to for these dashboards?
Yeah, so we have used a couple of different ones. We definitely have used the pre-made Azure plugin, which you guys offer. It's super, and we basically use it to set up from the start. But some of the dashboards also require, the PowerShell plugin, because if we need to do some advanced manipulation of the data, it's easier to do it through the PowerShell ones.
Mm-hmm.
But we've tried several of your plugins, but I don't think there's these 4 that I'm currently going to show you. That's, I think, the Azure plugins and the PowerShell ones.
The PowerShell piece, cool. All right, so I guess let's kick off with the first one, the Managed Cloud Business Monitoring by Evidi. So one of your services. Do you want to talk us through what's on the dashboard?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the services that we offer. Just to quickly describe what it is. So we offer integrations to all our customers, and these dashboards are it's a way to show our metrics, the important health data, and to visualize it, and of course monitor it. So we basically all the very important, the critical parts of the Azure infrastructure. So here, for example, you can see we have a couple of everything is green, luckily, but you can see service bus, topic active messages, dead letter queue. There's also a lot of DB, so Cosmos DB RUs, app exceptions. You can sort by the different types. It's basically a very nice dashboard to get, a very top-down view of if anything's wrong or not. If it's showing red, it's obviously something we need to take care of straight away. But it's a very neat and compact way to view, your health metrics.
Yeah, and you do have some red there, the client secret expiry.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool tile. This is basically a script which is grabbing all of our client secrets, and if it's some of them, and I'm sure that all developers in this podcast have experienced client secret expiring and not knowing about it, and then causing an enormous headache. So this tile actually prevents that. We can see that the expiry date is 27th of August, so you can see, and take care of that straight away, so you don't have to ruin production by letting it run out.
Yeah. A good example of one of those things where it's not sort of normally what a monitoring tool covers, right? But it's actually that sort of dependency, a ticking time bomb in a way, an expiry date when it hits, that's it. Your application is going to stop working.
Yeah.
So absolutely worth monitoring. I was interested. You've talked through a few different things there: Service Bus, Cosmos DB. Are these dashboards designed specifically for each customer and their workloads and applications running in Azure?
Yes, they are, but we basically start from a certain template. And for example, if some of our integrations don't have, say, Cosmos DB, we obviously don't use those kinds of tiles. So we do kind of create them specifically, yes. But they all spawn from sort of, the templates.
Yeah. And with the monitoring that you have set up, is it just Evidi that responds to those, or does the customer also see the alerts?
Yeah. So our department, the Operate and Evolve, we have a support team. So those are primary users in our SquaredUp, I guess, site. But we also offer to let the customer see the individual dashboards. So it's up to, they can see everything, but the main focus and the most important part, if I can say so, is the part that our support team checks all of these dashboards from the start of the day, and immediately reacts if some of the monitors or alerts are going off. So we get very quick response times.
Yeah. So the customer has visibility of this, but your teams are looking at this, responding to the monitoring, and it can be proactive if there's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're also showing these dashboards in our Ops Center, so which is also cool. So you can, the second you come into our office, you can see all of these dashboards on the screen.
Yeah, nice. I like also the way you've described it as cloud business monitoring. So it's not just cloud monitoring in the sense of, I don't know, here's just your resources, your infrastructure running in Azure. But a lot of what you have on the dashboards here are application focus, which I assume are business impacting. If there are issues on the dashboard.
Absolutely, that's very critical. So it's an important part.
Cool. All right. So that was the first one, cloud business monitoring. I think you had a second then you wanted to show us.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just quickly have to share that one instead. Sorry. So the next one is the cloud governance one. Hope that's visible now.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, wonderful. So this is the cloud governance dashboard. This is actually from my service, or at least I use this a lot. Just to quickly introduce my service, it's called Managed Cloud Cost and Optimization, and its entire objective is to reduce the cost in the cloud, which is obviously it can be a lot of money. So saving it, and of course cloud governance is a big part of it. And you can see here, for example, one of the tiles that we're looking at are orphaned resources. So not only are we using governance, we're also cutting costs by, for example, here you can see 4 orphaned app service plans. And just to iterate, orphaned resources are resources which are not being used at all. And this happens a lot, actually. It's not often that a service or something or a resource gets taken down and they're deleted. It's often you want some history on it, or it's simply forgotten about, and it's pulling a lot of costs from the cloud all the time. So having these sorts of dashboards obviously prevents that. We can go in after creating this and setting up the plugin, the Azure plugin, can immediately see, they have 4 orphan app service plans. That could be a couple of $1,000s. It could be more. It could be less. It's a really good start to cut some costs in a tenant, in an Azure tenant. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have I think a cost advisory dashboard coming up, so something that's a bit more specific around the cost.
Yeah.
So on this dashboard, you don't necessarily have the that sort of the cost of those 4 orphan resources, but
Yeah.
from a governance point of view, just the fact that they're no longer used is a security risk. It means that they're unmanaged, right? There's not necessarily even an owner who's responsible for those, as well as the cost. So just in general, it's something you're keeping on top of. And I guess you've got some nice healthy zeros there, the green zeros.
Yeah.
which is the way we like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it is a cloud governance tool, but it's just we can use all of these tools, and that's the really nice part about how we use SquaredUp. We kind of have a workspace for each customer, right? And for each service they want, it's just a dashboard within that workspace. So that's the kind of single pane of glass we're going for, that you can immediately get the complete picture of a customer from within a workspace. So it's really helpful to have this sort of structure within.
Yeah. And I can see the tiles below. That looks like Azure Advisor and Defender. So Defender recommendations. I guess the data there, the information there is pretty straightforward. It's coming straight out of those Azure services and would be available in the Azure console. But I guess this is a good example where, rather than your support teams or the customer themselves having to navigate the Azure console, sort of live in the Azure console, you've managed to just extract the information you want to share and surface into that dashboard.
Yeah, exactly. That's the really nice part about it. So that our support team doesn't have to use, for example, 8 different sites to kind of get the whole picture of the customer's stack or health, if you say so. If you can say that, we can just go into SquaredUp and get the complete full picture immediately.
Yeah, cool. And you mentioned in the beginning that you were integrating with a lot of the Azure APIs via our Azure plugin. Have there been any examples of the PowerShell plugin so far?
It is the last one, the manage carbon footprint. So
okay, all right. Well, let's go on to, I think. Well, do you want to do cost advisory next, or the
yes, sure. Yeah. Okay. So wonderful. So this is we have a lot of different dashboards related to cost, but I think this one is definitely an interesting one to show. So you can see immediately these big tiles showing app service plans, for example. This dashboard in its entirety is used to cut costs, right? So you can just immediately set up the plugin and get these dashboards out of the box. So when we go into someone's tenants, getting this picture immediately, they have, for example, 2 app service plans with dev in the name. This could perhaps be a free SKU and save lots of money, but it might not be as well. But it's a really nice place to start when cutting costs in the cloud. You can see app service plans that has test name premium plans. This is potentially downscalable, so you can also bring those concerns to the customers, or at least start a conversation, right? Here you can also say that this one is also all of these things in the clouds, right? It's nice to have, but perhaps if it's costing a lot of money and no one really uses it, it can easily be cut out and save a lot. So that's kind of the objective. You can also see, for example, GCRS storage accounts. This can immediately time the price of storage in the cloud by 2 if you have geo redundant or zone redundancy, and that's not always necessary in test or dev environment. So this is also meant as just straight out of the box good information to start a conversation with a customer. Here you can also see this is a bit of the same one. It's data from the Azure Advisor visualized probably a bit differently, but and this is the app service plans without. So these are premium plans, the really expensive ones, which doesn't have auto scaling enabled. That it's not always optimal. It can be some cases where people don't want auto scaling enabled, but a lot of the time you can just enable it and most likely save money on it. It's always a good thing to have auto scaling enabled. And this last one, this is probably the one I like the most. This query is written in Custo, so it's my great colleague is what I call a Custo wizard. So he creates these really good queries, which displays all this data really nicely. So here you can, for example, see the data source, the resource group name. There's a couple of fields that I've hidden, but you can understand the pictures. But in a sub or in a subscription and a resource, you can see the cost percentage increase or decrease, and have alerts on those. And that's just really, really good to have inside of SquaredUp, because this data being from our, for example, support team, and immediately seeing, oh, we can see a resource which is using $10,000 increasing by 120% in a week. That should throw up some red lights, right?
Yeah.
But it's not always you can see it. So having this sort of tile and being a part of our process is really helpful.
Again, that sort of basis for discussion, right? And, I think I can see a negative number there as well. So there's a reduction. It's like, that's because we deprovisioned this, or maybe sort of re-architected an application, resized it. But seeing those increases just prompts that question. It may be deliberate, it may be a conscious increase in spend, but it may be something that didn't go through a spending review and a budget decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool, very cool. Let's take a look at the fourth one then, and probably my favorite. It's a little bit different. It's the carbon footprint dashboard. Yeah.
So this dashboard is I also like it. I created it, so I have to like it. But this data, just to show you the screen, this data is customers are constantly becoming more wary of their carbon footprint, and that's a great thing, right?
Especially in Norway, all you guys drive is Teslas, right? I mean, that's it's top of mind.
It's a mind-boggling percentage which drives Tesla. So we love the environment. So this dashboard was created to sort of give the customer some insights on their Azure footprint. And it's not always that you can get this data and immediately think, oh, we can cut costs, or we can cut this significantly by displaying this data. But being aware and seeing, for example, this tile, which is the percent increase or percent decrease in this case, it's a great metric to have, and it's also great to show it as a KPI, which you can see we've done here. You can immediately get some sort of idea if it's going downward or upwards, and this can be due to just creating more resources in Azure, right? But that's the really nice part of my service, that cutting costs is very often correlated with reducing the carbon footprint. Because by downscaling or cutting or enabling auto-scaling, whatever it might be, saving money in the cloud very often says that you're using less data power, or consumption. It's just a really nice dashboard to have. You can see this is the monthly kilogram gram CO2e emissions. You can see the last month's. You can also see this one is nice. The carbon emission by service type. You can immediately see that we use a lot of service bus, some storage, Azure app services, and of course when we go in, with for example my service cutting costs, you can immediately see, oh, there's a reduction this month, and I think that's really nice for the customers to see that it's going in the right direction. And it's saving them money, which is also a nice one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is based on data that Microsoft provide. Is that right? How can you tell the carbon, the carbon output of different services? But that's based on some Microsoft data, and you've compiled that and just turned that into these visualizations.
Yeah, exactly. So That actually happened, I think, 6 months ago or something. But
Mhm.
it was Microsoft released their APIs. They didn't actually, I believe, I can't say with 100% certainty, didn't actually release this data. But recently they did release it to the public, and then we can all use, their APIs for free, and we used, of course, SquaredUp to visualize this data.
Very cool. So those are the four different dashboards. Was there anything else on this dashboard you wanted to?
Yeah, just a bit. I can just show you the rest.
Oh yeah.
So you can also see, by the resource group. So in the data of the API, you can also see the subscriptions, the location, and just some fun examples, to get some sort of picture of, what are these numbers actually equivalent to. Here you can see like 543 kilometers of flight or 2,173 smartphones charged. So yeah, that's that dashboard.
Ah, fantastic. These are great. Thanks, Andre, for taking us through them. What's been the response to the dashboards, I guess, internally and externally with your customers?
I think a lot of our customers, at least, really like them. SquaredUp is so easy, to get into and see, and the data is visualized so nicely. And of course, our support team is loving it because they don't have to, go into individual Azure tenants to see all of the different Azure dashboards in the console. So the single pane of glass, which I said a couple of different times, but it's so important here. They can get a complete picture of the dashboards within one site. It's just really important for us. So it's a really good response from everyone. To answer the
Fantastic.
question.
You've been enjoying building these dashboards, I think, over the last few months. What have been your favorite features in SquaredUp? What sort of what have you enjoyed using?
Yeah, so I like a lot, but just to, I guess, focus on the ones I really like. So yeah, I just mentioned it, so I'm going to mention it again. But this is due to the fact that SquaredUp is built like it is. I think it's really, really smart. But the single pane of glass, which you guys give the insights, the top level, you have the entire organization, and then you have the workspaces, and you can sort of immediately see the entire picture within the organization from a top view. I really like how everything is structured within SquaredUp.
So that's worth mentioning because we haven't been able to show that on this podcast today because it then shows all the customer names and so on.
Yeah.
But for those four dashboards, you have those set up for each individual customer. I guess maybe some additional dashboards as well that we haven't covered in this show. And then with our roll up, you have that monitoring and those KPIs roll up to a higher level, so you just have one view with across all of your customers, or as many as you can fit on a screen, as it were, with then drill downs into each of those customers. So when you said your support team is sort of sitting there watching all these dashboards, they're not necessarily having to watch hundreds of dashboards, right? But with that roll up allows them just to make sure everything's green and drill down into the red.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one thing at least I really like.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my colleague mentioned we talked about it, and he said that I had to mention the API. He has been working a lot on it, and he said that it was absolutely fantastic. It's really nice. You can get sort of all the data you need really quickly, and it's concise, and it's neatly structured. And you also have a feature which is really cool, which is basically you're able to take a screenshot. And get that from source A to source B through your API, which is really cool. We're experimenting with that.
No, that's cool. So we have the API is across the board, but we have the API to create and manage dashboards, workspaces, and monitors, and so on. So that's to automatically provision and modify what you have. You have an API for pulling the data out, so you don't have to always be just having that data in the dashboards. You can pull the data out from those dashboards, to another tool. That last one is a great one. So you can render a screenshot of that dashboard and then post it into Slack or Teams, in the morning, or send it via email. So we sort of like to think of it as reporting, but it's again blurring the lines between a real-time dashboard and a regular report. We don't all have dashboards up on our screen, every day. Maybe you do, or Andre, but most of us don't sit there with dashboards. But, pulling those into where we work, like Teams, Slack, and email, is a great way just to make sure people are still informed, because it's not always about alerting, right? It's not always about just only tell me if anything's wrong. Sometimes, I mean, those dashboards you've shown are full of insights, and actually just having a quick look at that dashboard, as you say, like once a day or once a week is really important as well. It sort of prompts those questions and discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working on the exact integration you said now.
Oh,
So
cool.
we wanted to get it to our team's channel. So we've just figured it out. So that's going to be live soon. So that's a really nice feature. Yeah, exactly as you said, reporting, just getting a complete picture if something is read within the channels. It's exactly 8 o'clock. It's nice. It's a good part of the routine as well. So it's a really nice feature.
Cool. And was there anything else, or were they? I think you're on a roll there, highlighting.
Yeah, I'm a SquaredUp enthusiast, so that's why.
Very cool. And I guess you have some plans beyond just those sort of 4 dashboards that you've built so far. So what next with SquaredUp for Evidi?
Yeah, so it's a lot of plans, but we really want to be able to, for example, the scalability, which I mentioned very early on. Part of what I really liked with SquaredUp was that you guys have a Terraform module. So being able to onboard a customer within a couple of minutes, you'd be having created a really good Terraform script or how we're going to do it, and instantly being able to deploy the relevant dashboards with the data we're providing. That's definitely something that we're looking to do. And we're also very heavily used, I mentioned the entire Microsoft stacks. So we're talking with the other departments within Evidi and trying to find if any if any customers or us within Evidi really needs a dashboard within, for example, Power Platform or Microsoft Fabric, which is something we were just introduced with. So creating dashboards for these products and learning their APIs and then visualizing it within SquaredUp. We're constantly doing that kind of work. So it's a lot in the horizon.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us on SQUPCAST and talking us through your dashboards. Here at SquaredUp, we always love to see what customers are doing with dashboards, but this forum is great because then others can see it and hopefully be inspired. I think there's a lot to be inspired by there. So I'm sure there's a lot of interest in what you've done. I look forward to what you're doing next. We'll have to get you back onto SQUPCAST in a few months' time and see what's new. But again, thank you so much, Andre, for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invite. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you within 6 months. We'll see you.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. All right. We'll call it a day. Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.